Hi gang, so in this video I am going to be doing the makeup application tag that was just uploaded to Jen Phelps' channel. So apparently this tag was created by one of her subscribers who left a comment called Chai Doll 93. So yeah, credit goes to Chai Doll 93 and Jen Phelps for responding to that comment. So instead of answering the questions one by one, I thought I would just go through my steps and then tell you what question applies to the step that I'm doing. So this was actually one of the questions. In what order do you apply your makeup? So yeah, I start with brows. And the question that applies to this step is, which step is an absolute must? At home, I don't wear makeup most of the time, unless I'm actually doing a video, in which case, obviously, that makes sense. But if I'm just lounging around the house, not really doing much, I don't have any makeup on. I can't be bothered, to be honest. And when I'm outside, I usually will put on some makeup, but it's not necessary. If I want to look just a little bit put together, I will put on some brow product and maybe a little bit of a lip. So this is the next step. This is eyeshadow primer, and yeah. So the order in which I do my makeup is brows first and then eyeshadow. So let's get the primer on. When it comes to eyeshadow, there are a few questions that this step is relevant to. So eyeshadow is the step that I take the longest to apply, as well as being my favorite to apply, because this is where all the creativity comes in. And I get to think of placement as well as color combinations. It's the most artistic and therefore the most enjoyable for me. And it also is the step that I think I'm the most good at. This is definitely subjective. It's usually my eyeshadow that gets the most compliments. Yeah, but I suppose that's also because it's the most visually apparent thing about my look. I also just got in the mail the Neve Cosmetics palette. Oh goodness. Okay, I had to look that up. It's pronounced Scurissimi, I think. Hopefully, if you're Italian, please don't kill me. I don't know how to pronounce it. Scurissimi. This is, yeah. Yeah. And look at that color story. This is so up my alley. This is gorgeous. Jewel tones. I originally picked up the duochrome palette from Neve Cosmetics. Absolutely love this palette. I absolutely love the quality of Neve Cosmetics eyeshadows. I also picked up some of their singles, and I did kind of a first impressions of them. These are some of the singles. Don't look at the top, but these are some of the singles that I picked up. I won't be doing a very in-depth explanation of the technique I'm using. This is mostly to answer the questions in the makeup tag. I'm probably just going to fast forward the makeup application. Okay, so this looks a little bit messy, but this is why I always do my eyeshadow first. I will clean up under the eye. Let's see, the next step I will do is liner, and this is not necessary for me. Sometimes I will do it, sometimes I won't, and it really depends on if I think the look needs it. In this instance, I will do a liner, and for this step, it's something that I definitely could use more practice in. That is one of the questions, lining with liner, because I do have asymmetrical eyes, and trying to get the line just right where it looks very symmetrical and even is one of the harder things for me to do. So this next step is definitely skin correction, and this is where I either conceal or have foundation on, and this one will vary depending on how my skin is, if it needs a bit more coverage, and sometimes I powder my face after that, sometimes I don't. It really just depends on the weather, the humidity, what I am doing next. If I'm simply filming, I usually don't set it with powder because I know I'm going to take it off anyway. I also always just clean up the eyeshadow a little bit, and usually when I do liner, this is what happens. I will have to go in with a Q-tip to kind of clean up everything, and then what happens is I will have to reapply some parts of the eyeshadow, and as you can see from here and here, this looks a little bit different, so I just have to even up all of those things and try to get it as symmetrical as I possibly can. So I usually kind of have this general shape, and then after I lay down skin correction products, which would be concealer, etc., I usually will go back in with a little bit of the outer blending shades, just so that it kind of looks like it's better blended together, because right now you can definitely see there's a harsh line. Okay, so the next step is bronzer and contour. I don't necessarily have to do both. Sometimes I do both. Sometimes I just do one or the other. And in this instance, I'm just going to do kind of like a bronze contour combo. And then my next step is usually blush. I have been playing around with switching up highlighter and blush. So highlighter going first and then blush. But it's just something that I'm experimenting with. I tried that when I tried to use Nicole Quinn's preferred method of application, makeup application. And I did like the effect it gave me. But sometimes I find it a bit difficult to remember to switch up those steps. So next step will be curling my lashes and then applying mascara. Okay, so next up is the step of false lashes. Now, I don't do this all the time and I'm not going to do it for this video. This is also one of my most dreaded application steps. It's something that I could use more practice in, and that's probably why I dread it so much. And it is also something that I sometimes skip. Actually, prior to meeting Aly, I never used false lashes whatsoever. I never owned one pair of false lashes. The first time I ever used lashes was when I was 18, and then that was for a party, and then I stopped. Since meeting Aly, I've gotten more into false lashes, and now and again I do wear them, but for this particular look I think it's fine without the false lashes. Next up is lips, which is the one that I usually can apply the fastest. So I guess the tricky part is figuring out which lip shade to use. I usually build my look around the eyeshadow as opposed to building it around a lip color. Okay, so the step of lip application can also vary based on what lip shade I'm using. If I'm using a really dark shade, it will take me longer because I need to finesse the lines, make sure everything's very crisp and clean up any sort of smudging on the that goes outside of the lip line. I might need to use a lip liner with it. I might want to throw on a lip gloss on top of it. So that really depends. If I'm doing a lip shade like this one, as you saw, I would put on some of the product and then even it out with my finger. And I think with this method of kind of sharing it out, it turns into a little bit more of a stain. If I were to apply this very opaque, that would be harder for me to finesse, because then I might run into the issue of having to clean up the outer corner, and of course the shade would look more concentrated and dark, and the texture might be more emphasized with, you know, a heavier coat. So using the technique of kind of shearing it out with my finger is usually the quickest and my favorite way to apply lipstick. So the last step is something that I sometimes skip because I usually forget about it, and that is redrawing my moles. So this was a step that I used to do quite often, and then I don't know why I kind of just stopped doing it. And then when I watched Nicole Quinn's application technique again, she was saying how redrawing the moles on your face kind of makes your makeup seem less cakey and heavy, because you know, if you were having a light coat of makeup, you would be able to see your natural imperfections more, and that would be moles. And I like the appearance of my moles. This one above my eye, and this one right here. I also do have a faint one over here, but sometimes I just leave that undone, but mostly this one and this one. Yeah, and like she said, sometimes if you have a pimple, you can just draw over it to make it look like a beauty mark, like a mole. So okay, so this is another step that I do towards the very end. Sometimes it's because I forget to do it, and yeah, sometimes I don't do it. It just depends on how I feel. So this is contouring the nose bridge, and again, I think I talked about this before in a previous video, and this might be a step that I do because I'm trying to emulate Eurocentric standards of beauty, where my nose bridge appears a little bit higher. So yeah, I don't know. So lastly, I use a setting spray. Okay, so there are a few other questions that are remaining in this tag, and those are what unique tools, and so there are a few other questions that are remaining in this tag, and one of them is any unique tools you use that no one else really uses. So my answer for that would have to be the use of Duraline as a mixing medium with eyeshadow to create liners. And it's not as if I haven't seen anyone use it. I have seen some people use it, and that's how I found out about this. But I don't see it as an extremely popular thing to use. Also, sometimes I might just spray my brush with Matte Fix Plus and go in with a very nicely pigmented eyeshadow and use that as liner. That's another thing that I don't always see people doing. So yeah. And then next one is, which step alters from time to time in the way you apply it? So the answer for that would have to be skin correction. Like I said, sometimes I use concealer, sometimes I use foundation. Honestly, at this point, I stick to using this product the most. This is the House of Glam Dolls Glam Lift Wheel, and it has a few different shades, and I kind of concentrate some of the shades more heavily in certain areas depending on the unevenness of the skin. If there's more redness, I will use more of a yellow tone. If there's I guess more of the kind of under eye darkness, I would use more of a peach tone to color correct it, and that's usually my technique. Sometimes I will just use, let's say, the Makeup Revolution foundation and just apply it to like the center of the face and then blend that out. I usually don't bring the color correcting stuff out to the cheek area, like this area. I kind of just let that be its own natural contour shade, which is my natural skin essentially. There's nothing really that's here. And like I said, I also like to experiment with the steps of bronzer, blusher, highlight, contour, which step stays relatively the same the way you apply it. So it's usually brows and mascara. My brow technique is pretty standard. I usually go in with a pencil. I have been adding some darker eyeshadow, black eyeshadow to my brows, because I do realize when I look back at some of my videos, I find that my hair is a lot darker than my brows. At the moment, I don't have a very, very dark brow pencil, which is my preferred brow product essentially. I'm not that fond of eyebrow pomades and eyebrow gels, but yeah, sometimes I do use a bit of a tinted brow gel in addition to my eye pencil. It really depends on my mood. And the mascara is also a very standard procedure. Curl, put on mascara. Okay, so that is the end of the makeup application tag. Thank you very much to Jen Phelps and ChiDoll93. I will link that video down below, and I'm also going to tag Emmy, Aly, and Sam for this video. And if you're watching this and you feel like doing this, go ahead and do it. Also, if you don't have a channel, you can leave your comment down below. I'd be glad to read it and see what you have to say. I am really loving the quality of Neve Cosmetics eyeshadows. You already saw me apply the eyeshadows and I think they blend out very beautifully. Their shades are not necessarily the most bright and vibrant shades, but they really blend out very nicely and they build very nicely, and I am just super impressed with the quality of their shades. Their mattes as well as their shimmers and their duochromes, yeah, they are now some of my favorite shadows to work with. So definitely stay tuned if you want to see an updated proper review of the Scurissimi palette from Neve Cosmetics. That's it from me, and ciao for now.